finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome back, guys. Sorry about that. The first segment was dead air because I was having a massive technical difficulty. My computer decided to crash just as I came in from my opening, and I could not get the thing started. So luckily I had a little laptop. I was able to still communicate and, put a couple messages in the chat there, but I apologize for the dead air for the first segment. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, I have a I'm still going to try to put it on for you, but I have a decent show prepared, actually a really good one. And I spent about 2.5 hours going over a documentary which I placed in the chat room for everybody to check out. It's called Dust to Dust, The Health Effects of 911. And I'm going to play a couple clips from it for you. I'm going to have to reduce the amount of clips I'm going to play because of that little foul up in the beginning there. But anyway, I put it in the chat. You can see it on my YouTube channel. The answer to 1984 is, check it out, Dust to Dust, The Health Effects of 911. And you're gonna see just disturbing, sickening things. And I don't mean like gory stuff. You're going to see how maltreated the first responders have been, and it's sickening. And then after you watch the movie, it's really no wonder why Bloomberg didn't invite them to Ground Zero this year. Really not a surprise, because he probably doesn't want all these first responders showing up in wheelchairs and on oxygen tanks and everything else, because that wouldn't look good. And you're going to have President Scumbag and President Scumbag 2 over there. So they're going to have Bush and Obama. So they even said, security concerns. What, are they worried that one of the first responders is going to get up out of his wheelchair and try to kick Bush's ass for what they did to him? And what I mean by what they did was the EPA through Christy Whitman, because Bush tapped her. She was the governor of New Jersey. She just gotten reelected, and Bush tapped her to run the EPA, and she, right on air, she, lied and said that the air was fine to breathe. Listen, check it out. It's sickening.
EPA went to New York City and addressed the people there.
We've had concern. We're going to continue to monitor, but right now, as I will tell you, everything we're getting back from the sampling that we're doing is below background levels. There is not a reason for the general public to be concerned. It's not going to be a particular hazard unless you have breathing difficulties, heart condition, then you shouldn't be out here walking around and trying to get exercise. So that's not appropriate, obviously.
All right, can you believe she actually had the balls to say that? That the air is fine to breathe, there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing toxic in the air. The only people that'll be affected are older people that have a hard time breathing, stuff like that. And you shouldn't be walking around if you're old, or decrepit, which is what she's, alluding to, and trying to get exercise. So she's saying that the people that would get sick would be like the mall walkers, the old people that you see walking around. That's insulting to the over 8,000 first responders that are sick. We've lost over 1,000 people since 9/11. You know that? We lost more people to the sickness because they told them, and when I say they, I mean the Bush administration and the people that worked for the EPA, Christy Whitman, and, all the people that followed her. But actually, you'll hear from a couple people in some of the clips, and when you watch the movie, a lot of these EPA officials were, like, what are you doing? And they explain how they were, they had their hands tied pretty much, they could only get out a certain amount of stuff. But I want you to be able to hear the list of the crap that was actually in the dust. And when you hear the amount of stuff that was in the dust, it's just incredible. I mean, it is completely, completely amazing the amount of crap that was in there. And then think about Whitman's statement, and I'll play another televised bit she did where she said it was okay. But check this out. Listen to this. Tell me you don't want to scream and yell, okay?
But what exactly was in that burning pile where the World Trade Center once stood? According to final studies later published by the EPA and other government agencies, a devastating toxic soup containing more than 2,500 contaminants. Asbestos fibers, once inhaled, cannot be expelled by the lungs and cause various cancers. Benzene, another carcinogen, suppresses the immune system and can cause leukemia. Mercury is toxic to the nervous system, and especially the kidneys. Lead and cadmium are toxic to the respiratory tract and can also cause irreparable kidney damage.
Now that's from the computers and stuff that was in there.
Polycystic aromatic hydrocarbons are the chemicals in
that's from the
cigarettes
diesel
that cause
fuel
lung, laryngeal,
that was used
and
to
mouth and throat
fuel
cancer.
the generators.
PCBs commonly cause severe skin rashes and can also cause liver damage.
Now, before I play the rest, mind you have to remember, all this stuff came from the materials of what was inside the World Trade Center. The mercury came from inside the fluorescent bulbs. Like something like 50 or 60,000 fluorescent units were in there. So you can only imagine how many bulbs and how many were in storage or whatever in the closets. You're not supposed to breathe that stuff in. How many thousands and thousands and to tens of thousands of those things were stored or being actively used? Okay? The next part that you're going to hear about, the crystalline silica. There was 420,000 tons of concrete, sheetrock, and glass in that building. Well, when it all turned to dust and it was in the air, what do you think glass is good for you, even if it's in tiny little particles? Tiny, tiny little microscope? No, it's still glass.
Particulates in the dust itself lodge in the heart, causing ischemic heart disease, often fatal.
You see 210-story.
So basically, and what the guy was going to say is you see a 210-story building and, it drops into nothing. And it disappears into, dust in this little pile. Where do you think all that went? You know? Where do you think it all went? It was, that's what that dust was. And these guys had the balls to act like, you know, oh, it's okay. Listen, this is an EMT from the FDNY.
Buildings collapse and nothing's more than small little pieces. Where did the asbestos go? Where did all the concrete dust go? Where did all the fiberglass go? Where did all this go? And anybody could see that it went into the air.
Yeah, a retarded monkey could have figured out that it went into the air. And you come to find out they didn't start to decontaminate, like hardcore decontamination procedures until February. They only started slight decontamination procedures in November of 2001. February of 2002 was when they started like the hardcore decontamination, washing trucks and everything else down. But by that time, you already had 4 months, 4.5 months of trucks coming and going and coming and going, cross-contaminating everything. Then that stuff, gets, say someone, a lot of people from Jersey came in with their trucks to help out. Then they drag that stuff back over the bridges. It goes into the water. Now it's floating around in the air from the bridge. And this went on for months and months and months. I'll play more clips for you when we get back. I'm doing this because we're coming up on 9/11, guys, and we need to focus on the sick and dying first responders. So I'm trying to bring some light to them. We'll be right back. Make sure you get a pad and a pen.
It's all the same. Only the names will change every day. It seems we're wasting away. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
I've said it time and time again. This needs to be the country's new anthem. And I don't mean like playing it at ball games and stuff like that. I mean in our heads. We need to, we need to decide to get pissed off and angry. And if my show tonight doesn't get you pissed off and angry, and I don't mean the the technical difficulty in the beginning, because that certainly pissed me off. But no, I'm talking about the 9/11 first responders getting pissed on and treated like crap. That should make you angry. And if you're going to do anything this year, if you want to do a good deed, then donate to the Feel Good Foundation. They don't give me any money to say that. Nobody pays me any money. John doesn't call me up and say, Popeye, talk about it. Do me a favor and just donate to them. If you know a first responder, if you could help somebody, one of these guys, because some of them are losing their homes because they can't work, so they can't afford to pay for their houses or apartments and stuff, and some of them are by themselves. If you have the room, if you know someone that has an extra room or something, help these guys out. Extend the courtesy of the room to them. Yeah, that's asking a lot, but you know what? What they have been through is asking a lot of a human being, and these people still fight it every day. The treatment that they got is horrible, okay? And I always say they, because I don't include myself in the sick first responder category. My injuries come from when I was in the military. And I'm not going to, I was a first responder, but I'm not going to play off like I'm a sick first responder to try to get any attention. So that's why I always say they, just in case anybody's wondering. Anyway, the things that these people went through, these men and these women, it was disgusting what our government and the city of New York has done to them. And the city of New York and the federal government keep playing this game where they swap the blame back and forth. But don't let Bloomberg's administration fool you, and don't let Giuliani's administration before that fool you. Giuliani's one of the reasons we lost so many damn firefighters and EMTs that day. And we didn't, the cops' radios worked. They knew to get out. Firefighters never got the call because their radios weren't working. And then the Giuliani and them had the balls to say that they heroically disobeyed the order to get out. That's insulting. I don't know how to tell you how insulting that is. I maybe it's me because I have a personal connection with 9/11, but I don't know how to tell you how effing insulting that is. It's like spitting in someone's face. Unbelievable. Anyway, here's a doctor, Dr. Stephen Levine, and you can hear he admits, listen to what he says about it. This was like in the coming days right after 9/11 and 9/11 itself and in the following weeks and months. Listen to what he has to say.
We had seen people being dragged off that pile, eyes streaming, gasping and coughing and choking for breath. We knew very well that people were being exposed to irritant materials as well as cancer-causing agents really from the start, and probably had health consequences that are unlikely to have been faced in other disasters.
There you have it. Now, this is a doctor who he worked at Mount Sinai Center for Occupational and Environmental Medicine. And he's telling you right from the get-go they knew that all that crap, because when those buildings came down and the shock, passed through everybody, thinking kicked in and everybody was like, wow, desks, chairs, people, all the wiring, plumbing, tile, all that stuff turned to dust. Now, as a side caveat, how does a jet fuel fire turn all that stuff to dust? Computers, filing cabinets, paper, but I digress. Hey, fire's an amazing thing, right? Yeah. Here's a question to ponder, and this comes from the firefighter side of me. How come, since 9/11, insurance companies the world over have not flipped out about this new phenomenon where buildings collapse completely into their own footprint and turn into dust due to simple room and contents fire? That's what it's called in the firefighting industry, a room and contents fire. Yes, there was some jet fuel and stuff, but it was pretty much room and contents, and then whatever was left of the jet fuel, which wasn't much because most of it burned up in the massive fireball, didn't go pouring down the elevators like they would have you believe. That was to cover up the fact that there were explosions. They don't want you to look into that at all. They don't want you to look into anything. They don't want you to look deeper into anything at all. Okay? Check this out. You're going to hear Nikki Tinsley. Okay, she's a former EPA Inspector General. Listen to what she has to say.
The EPA was quick to reassure everyone that the air was safe.
Like right now, we're not getting any elevated levels.
Now, this is Christy Whitman on September 13th. No elevated levels of anything.
But given the chaos of those first days, how much could the EPA have really known about the contents of that chemical soup?
Exactly.
In the early days, it was difficult for EPA to have access. The folks who wanted to go in and set up the monitors didn't have access. There were problems.
And this is Nikki Tinsley, the former Inspector General.
There were problems because the equipment was not available, nor were the analysts available to do the work in the first few days following the collapse of the World Trade Center.
So far, we have done over 24 air samples. We're doing air monitoring, constant air monitoring.
This is Christy Whitman again.
Samples.
In fact, by September 13th, the EPA had taken only 10 ambient air samples in Lower Manhattan, according to the EPA's own data published later.
Well, if there's any good news out of all this, it's that everything we've tested for, which includes asbestos, lead, and VOCs, have been below any level of concern for the general public health.
Certain toxins had not been tested. There were other contaminants of potential concern, and those included PCBs, PAHs, dioxin, and I believe some other metals.
You cannot find what you don't look for. This is true. And
this is Robert Martin. He's a former ombudsman for the EPA.
It's not a health concern. Now, it's not nice. I'm not saying this smells nice. I'm not saying this is nice. But from a real health problem, we don't have to worry.
How evil can you get? She went on TV and literally told people it was okay to breathe that crap and to go back to work. And they did. The people went back to work. which was really horrible. Okay, now check this out. Check this next part out. This is the EPA later on admitted through one of their own findings, okay, and through their own research, that that conclusion that she came out and, you know, strongly pushed wasn't based on science. Guess what it was based on?
But according to a report later issued by its Inspector General, the EPA's reassuring public statements that week were not based on science. They were based on White House policy.
The White House, the Council on Environmental Quality, EPA, and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration worked together on the press releases. The White House had the final word. So EPA did not feel that it had ownership of those press releases.
The White House Council on Environmental Quality is headed by James Connaughton, who is not a scientist. He had been appointed to his post by President Bush only months before 9/11. His previous experience? Representing large corporations in disputes about cleaning toxic waste sites.
Yeah, Alcoa, Arco, GE.
EPA.
White House Council on Environmental Quality is not on this. They're not even a part. They shouldn't have been involved at all.
We were told that CEQ had a desire to protect the national security and to get Wall Street open, and that was the reason that the press releases were changed.
The original title of the EPA's September 13th press release was subtitled, Testing Terrorized Sites for Environmental Hazards. The subtitle after the CEQ's revisions, Reassures Public About Environmental Hazards. The original draft of the EPA's September 16th press release noted several debris samples that showed levels of asbestos ranging from 2.1 to 3.3%. explaining that anything above 1% is defined as asbestos-containing material.
At that point, the area should have been evacuated because we had...
All right, we're going into break. When we come back in for the final segment, I'll play a couple more clips, but there you go, guys. It was money in politics over the lives of not only the first responders and the cleanup people that lived and worked down there and brought that home to their wives, their kids, their communities. Thanks, George. Thanks, Dick. We're back. This is the final segment of the September 2nd Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Again, I apologize for the very brief episode today, guys, with the first 15 minutes. But next week, good news. Next week, either the end of next week or the following Wednesday, we will be going to 2 weeks. So, hoorah. Okay. Anyway, since we're kind of short on time, I want to get the last couple clips in here for you guys. And again, go check the movie. It's called Dust to Dust, The Health Effects of 9/11. And I want you guys to hear some of the stuff. You want to hear something really interesting? I bet you the Pentagon. Do you think the Pentagon was treated the same way? Do you think they cleaned the Pentagon up the same way as they cleaned up the World Trade Center, or do you think they took more care over at the Pentagon? What are you guys willing to bet, huh? 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks? I know you don't want to bet. Okay. You know why you don't want to bet?
And to believe it.
Here.
No one was allowed into the Pentagon cleanup without the proper respirators, without washing down so there would not be air release. But in World Trade Center it was totally opposite. People were allowed on site without any protective gear or with paper masks or with the wrong respirators and were allowed to work with their respirators off.
If they had told me and told my friends and told the cops and told the iron workers, you got to wear this or you're going to die, everybody would have worn it. You'd be a fool not to.
There you go. Right from one of the dying first responders. Now, this was back in 2006, so I can guarantee you some of the guys in this movie are probably dead now. And I'm not saying that to be a dick or anything. I'm just saying that to be a realist. That's sad that some of these guys are dead, and this was filmed not, maybe 5 years ago. So there you go. But Right from the horse's mouth. You hear him say that if we were told to wear the masks, we would have. We would have been idiots not to. Okay? And yet you're spoon-fed this crap that they heroically ignored these commands because, blah, 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 the horse pucky. Okay? And not only did they expose the first responders, but they exposed school children and their parents and the teachers and everything else. Okay? Stuyvesant High School. Listen to this.
There was a huge drive to reopen the building. That was all part of the general spirit
This is one of the
at
parents.
time, which was, let's show the terrorists, let's get back up into downtown, get back up on the horse. They told us they cleaned the ventilation system. Everybody goes back into the building. The media show up. Look at these brave kids. Aren't they a model for us all? And then later we find out the ventilation system was not cleaned. So the kids are inhaling deeply this toxic dust. There were signs of illness very early on. There were rashes, nosebleeds, new onset asthma that can last the rest of their lives.
Kids.
Chronic sinusitis. Some of the kids were taking medication that included steroids and chemical bronchitis, chronic bronchitis. The list goes on and on.
We know that there are people, both adults and children, who developed asthma as a result of coming back to that area too soon. We know that there are some people who are still working or living in environments that are still contaminated, and this material can be resuspended into the air to cause additional health consequence.
The residents who live near the area, who believe the government, run a high risk of health effects 20 years down the line, including cancer. The workers already are experiencing serious health effects from working there and believing EPA and the government.
There you have it. There you go. I mean, could they get any sicker? Could these sick pricks get any worse? I mean, I know that they can. I know they sacrifice children and stuff, but, look, if you're not pissed about the first responders, this should really piss you off. They sent kids back to school to go get sick. But you don't hear about this. You don't see this on CNN. You don't see this on Fox News. The only place you'll find this is in the alternative media. Websites like mine, federaljack.com, Orion Talk Radio, the network, oriontalkradio.com, the Intel Hub, bobtuscan.com, We Are Change, Uncover the News. Websites like that. You won't find this stuff anywhere else. And, it really pisses me off that there are some people that are, discussing it or whatever, but there's not a lot of, whenever people talk about the 9/11 first responders, there's not a lot of effort put forward. I'm asking everybody to put some effort forward, physically, boots on the ground. Okay? If you're not there and you're hundreds of miles away, donate to the Feel Good Foundation. If you're going to be there on 9/11, help these guys out, okay? Because they're not invited. So, like I said, we got time, guys. It's the 2nd. Come on, put something together for these guys. Somebody in New York. I know people all over the world listen to my show, okay? And I know it gets rebroadcast. I know a lot of people in New York listen to it. Somebody get together, rent out a Hooters or whatever. Get put out a message and say, look, whoever, if you know a couple of them, whatever, bring them down. Get like 50 or 60 of them in there if you can afford to, and give them free beer and wings and stuff for a couple hours. At least try to give them, make what little time they have left. Try to help them out. Try to be good to them. Try to help their families. Try to help raise money for them if you can. Right? I mean, do whatever you got to do. Raise awareness. That's the best thing you could do. Rip the movie from YouTube and throw it on a DVD. Make 100 copies of it and give it out to somebody all over the place. Label it How the Government Treats the 9/11 First Responders. And just let them watch it. It's sickening what these people went through and to see what they did to them, okay? And they don't get a voice, and that's why I today's show, I pretty much been just talking about them, and I've been, playing the clips because I want to give these guys a voice. You know, these are my brothers and my sisters, and they're dying, and nobody's taking care of them, and I have a real big problem with that. So I'm going to do my damnedest to take care of them as best I can. Now, this is right from them. This is what they have to say. Okay, this is them at the end of the flick. But I want you to hear what they have to say, so you can hear the pain and you can hear what they've been through. I want you to hear their voices because it's important. Their voice is important.
What's scary about that is that we all spent time down there. And after Felix passed away, and now Debbie, and numerous others, we're all pretty frightened as to who's next.
We've had deaths we don't want anymore. We have sicknesses we want no more. We want the information so that we can make educated medical decisions.
This is an outrage to treat people this way. Not to be able to make sure that they are taken care of, to watch their lives be disrupted, turned upside down, watch them worry about whether they're going to be able to pay the mortgage, whether they're going to be able to keep their kids in school. These people deserve better than that.
Stop the lies. Please, stop lying to people. I know it would have cost more money to do it differently. I know it would have cost more money, and maybe it wouldn't have been in the best interest of the security of the country to keep Wall Street closed for another couple of weeks and that kind of stuff, but it's not fair to kill people.
Yeah, we were basically ignored and forgotten. I don't know. The old stand behind your president no matter what because he's the leader of your country has been changed in my mind. I still believe you respect the title, but you can't respect the man anymore.
We're neglected. We're absolutely neglected. We are the dust that they're trying to sweep away and hope it's going to blow away. We have become the lost souls and the dust that are still left at ground zero.
Right from the horse's mouth. You see how they feel? You see how they've been treated? We can't wait anymore for people to do something. We can't wait anymore for the government to finally respond and do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. Help out the Feel Good Foundation. Go help out a first responder. If you can help one of these guys, if you know someone who knows someone that's a first responder and sick, go visit the person. Say thank you for what you did, and give them $50 or $100 if you can. Give them a hug. Do what you can. We need to take care of these people because our scumbag government, scumbag Mike Bloomberg, none of them are going to take care of it. And yeah, Ken, who is he's a host here on the network. He's got a show on Sunday nights. He just said in the chat room, just like the veterans, he's exactly right. He's a vet himself. I myself am a vet. And I can tell you, we get screwed, and they do the same kind of stuff to us. But this isn't, you know what? Help out the first responders. That's what it's about. And if you can help out a veteran too, help out a vet. I mean, they're homeless. There's guys all over the street that, 25 years old, they come back from war and they have nothing. They lose everything because they have PTSD and the government doesn't want to help them out and deny them benefits. Welcome to the USSSA. Yes, I said 3 S's for super socialist states.
This is Sparta!
That's how I feel. I want to go start kicking people into a pit. Let's go. Let's get our helmets and our shields. It's time to kick some ass. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Special 4-hour show. Jim Fetzer, Kevin Barrett, and more. See you then.